Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from the Carpathian Basin here in Central Europe. I hope everybody is having a good and productive week so far, staying healthy and strong. Hi, Lydia. Hi, Violet. Hi, Harvinder. Nice to see many of our regular students, Navneet, Lepay, and Ashraf. Nice to see our members joining in as well. This lesson, students, is an IELTS listening section practice for part 1 and part 2, and some strategies and tips along the way to show you a band 9. The lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. And for general IELTS, check us out at ieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have lots of materials to help you improve, get those higher band scores. Spending a couple dollars to really learn effectively and improve quickly is always a good idea. You can, of course, download and link the apps. Academic IELTS Help links to aehelp.com. General IELTS Help links to gieltshelp.com. Again, if you have questions about our products or about the exam, just contact me at adrian@aehelp.com. And if you're looking for our exams to practice from physical books, you can get our books, our exam books from Amazon. Do a search for AE Helps Academic IELTS or GE Helps General IELTS, and you can find our exam books there, and you can purchase them or digital or paperback versions. So listening now. Tomorrow we'll have task 1 and more listening, and then speaking on Saturday. Let's get right into our speaking. So this speaking is coming out of our 6th exam. For those of you that have it, you might have seen this one already. And I'm just going to hop over to our website here, aehelp.com, for the audio. So for those of you who have access to our websites, this is the academic website here. I'm just logging into the My Student account. And in the My Student account, I'm going to open up the audio for this. Now, students, I'm going to play this audio through a nice Bose speaker and my headset. So the audio quality is as good as it gets with real-time live streaming. If it's a bit quiet for you, I definitely recommend using a headset or turning the volume up on your end. I checked the volume on my side, and hopefully it will be clear. If it's not, let me know, and then I'll try to adjust. But most importantly, save your answers until the end so everybody has a chance to write their answers, and then we'll share them, okay, at the end. So write them into a separate document so we can share them at the end, okay? All right, here we go, everyone. I'm just going to fire up the audio, and then we'll go right back to the questions. So ready with listening section 1 or part 1 from exam 6. Here we go.
This recording is copyrighted by 2 Think One Solutions Inc. and World ESL Tutors. You will hear several different recordings, and you will answer questions on what you hear. There will be time given to read the instructions and questions, and you will be given a chance to check your work. The recordings will be played only once. The test is made up of 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Listening section 1. You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman concerning the requirements of running for municipal office. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, The conversation relating to this question will be played.
Good morning. You've reached the Information Office for Municipal Affairs. This is Florence speaking.
Good morning, Florence. My name is Walter, and I'd like some information on running for municipal office in the upcoming election.
You're in the right place. The first piece of information I'll need from you is the specific office you'd like to run for.
Town councillor, I'd imagine.
The man says he would like to run for town councillor, so this has been indicated for you. Now we begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning. You've reached the Information Office for Municipal Affairs. This is Florence speaking.
Good morning, Florence. My name is Walter, and I'd like some information on running for municipal office in the upcoming election.
You're in the right place. The first piece of information I'll need from you is the specific office you'd like to run for.
Town councillor, I'd imagine.
Great. I need some information from you in order to get you on the ballot this September. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, I'm ready.
This should only take a few minutes. Okay then, let's start with your surname, Walter.
Colchester. Colchester.
And Walter is spelt in the regular fashion?
Yes, Walter.
Okay, next I need your date of birth.
I was born the 11th of December, 1979.
The 11th of December 1979 makes you 36 years old at the time of the September elections. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. I'll need your national insurance number.
My national insurance number is WC 285-698-33.
WC 285-698-33.
That's right.
Great. And the last pieces of information I need from you are your current address and phone number.
I live at 23 Shaftesbury Lane, Plymouth, and you can reach me on 01752 667 835.
Wonderful. Next, I'll give you some information on running for municipal office.
You now have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 6 to 10.
First of all, you should know that you're one of 15 candidates so far that have registered for the 4 town councillor positions. Since the deadline for registration is in a week, I do not anticipate this number increasing by more than a candidate or 2. Second, please know that there are 3 all-candidate debates, of which you must attend 2 in order to qualify for office.
I have to participate in debates.
Yes, that's right. They are on the 14th and 28th of August, and the final one is on the 4th of September. They'll be held at the local community hall on Ashford Street. Each one begins at 6 o'clock in the evening.
That sounds fine. Is there anything else I need to know?
Yes, there is. Do you plan on spending money on your campaign? This could be on adverts in newspapers, promotional signage, or other advertising.
Well, I was planning on taking an ad out in the local paper, yes.
Not a problem, but please keep in mind that there is a strict £2,000 limit on campaign spending for town councillors. All expenses must be reported to this office. Overspending will result in disqualification.
I don't think that should be a problem.
Oh, and one more thing, Mr. Colchester. There is a £50 registration fee for each candidate for town councillor. You may pay this fee over the phone by credit card, with a cheque in the post, or in person with cash, credit or debit. How would you like to pay?
I live right by the office, so I'll drop by this afternoon to pay in person.
My assistant will take care of that for you. I think that is all I need from my end. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so. Thanks for your help.
You're welcome, and good luck.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Fantastic, students, and make sure to use that half minute to check your answers, okay? Don't jump forward in that half minute, because in that half minute, you can absolutely catch often like a spelling mistake or the wrong word and save yourself 1 or 2 marks, okay? So it's really important to use that half minute to actually check your answers, and then you will have time again to review the next questions a little bit later. Okay, now, students, did you notice how at the beginning there, when the instructions were going on, I kind of quickly moved forward to part 2, part 3, and part 4. What I was doing in that time is I was just trying to get a sneak peek at the kind of topic of part 2, part 3, and part 4. I was able to see that part 2 was some kind of like a company meeting that it was talking about. And I remember that part 4 was something about roads. I was kind of able to get that information as well. Anybody remember what part 3 was about? So was anybody able to catch a couple of ideas from part 3 and what that might have been about? I don't quite remember that one. So maybe somebody else caught a little bit of that. But basically in the paper-based exam, not in the computer-based exam, but in the paper-based exam, you can actually do this. And many students have said to us in email that they did this and it really helped them. A couple times students said that the proctor in the exam said, please don't look at the other sections. But a lot of students that we asked, they said, yeah, I had no problem. I actually flipped the pages and just looked at the topics real quick, and it really helped me to get that advanced piece of information. Okay. Preeti, it was probably a bit fast for you because you didn't know what I was doing. So all I was doing was when the instructions were going on, I quickly kind of just went to section 2 and I looked at this, like who pays the salaries of the workers. Okay, so paying the workers. And then I looked at this kind of a little bit too, downloads and constants. So I knew it was some kind of a discussion in the workplace. And then I quickly stopped for part 3. And I looked at this. How many books has the guest written? What description does the guest give the book? So it's something about book or book writing. Okay. And then I looked at section 4. And it says, what created the first roads? Though roads were necessary. So I see the word roads coming up again and again. So I realized that was something about roads. Okay. So was everybody able to kind of catch, or were some of you able to catch kind of some of the topics here, what this was about? Okay, or what these different parts were about. Because part 1 is fairly easy compared to the other parts. You should use that introduction time to kind of look at those topics and get your brain working on those topics, okay? But you can only do that in the paper-based exam. All right, now, from 2020, there are a couple of changes, small changes, but important changes to be careful about in the listening section. One, notice how here we had this example. So the speaker says, what are you applying for? And then the person says, well, I'm applying for the town councillor position. Now you don't have this example, okay? So it no longer exists. It no longer exists. Since 2020, they just start right away. There's no example in part 1. Also, notice how here we have section 1, but that's actually being changed to part 1 because it makes it more clear. Because in IELTS they call the different sections like the listening section, reading section, writing and speaking section, so they don't want to confuse you, so they renamed it part 1, part 2. But that's just a small change. You don't have the example anymore. Okay. All right. Yeah, Moni, absolutely do this. Okay. So absolutely do this. Okay. So let's get into some of these answers here. All right. Now, so I saw a couple people saying, hey, wait a second. The answers here were jumbled. Okay. So they actually gave the answer for the date of birth before they gave the answer for the address. Interestingly, in the IELTS, sometimes you will have the answers to a table type question like this coming out of order. Okay, keep that in mind. So there is no guarantee that you're going to hear the answer to question 2 before you hear the answer to question 3. Oftentimes, yes. In many situations, yes. In many IELTS exams, yes, but not always. Be careful that it's not always in order because this is considered one question type. Okay? So this is one type here. It's all one form completion. And the answers are fairly simple. So they give you the name Colchester, and I saw many of you write that. Okay, so yes, the answer here is Colchester. This has to be a big C, okay? Or they can be all capital letters, like Jainil is writing into the chat. It can be all capital letters for your answers in the listening or in the reading. It's okay. All capitals is okay. All small letters is not okay. Okay? So these answers are relatively easy. So they don't have to give you these in the same order. Okay? When they say, what's your date of birth? You should be able to see date of birth because you had time to review. So there is no magical rule for the IELTS exam that the answers come in the order of the audio. Oftentimes, yes, but not always. Be very careful about that, especially with table questions. Is everybody clear on that? So when you have a table type question like this, there is no guarantee that the questions come in order. It's just like later on for question 10. Okay, so this is what's called a multiple choice, where you had to choose 3 from the 6. And there is no rule that those 3 are coming in order. Okay, so again, this is another type of question where the answers aren't necessarily coming in the order of the list of answers. Okay, so careful about that. Okay, careful about that. I think that really catches some students off guard. Okay, so some students are very surprised by that. Okay, so let's go here. Usually yes, students, usually yes, but not always. There's no guarantee there. Okay. All right. So number 1, Colchester, capital C, or otherwise it's incorrect if it's small. Make sure that with capital letters like C or O, you make them very clearly big. The C here should be double the size of the lowercase c. If it's just kind of bigger, they'll mark that wrong. Okay, that's another point I want you to be really clear on. Okay, so if you're C or you're O, with A it's easy because A is a different letter or a different looking letter for capital or lowercase. But with letters where they look the same, like C or O, okay, make sure that they're very clearly bigger letters if you're using both upper and lowercase. If they can't really see the difference, if your C is like this, okay, and it's similar to the lowercase, they'll mark that wrong. Okay, they're not going to play around, all right? Yeah, Manpreet, you can write all in capitals, okay? You can write all capitals. So Colchester like that, or Colchester like that, okay? Now, if you're writing all capital letters, be careful about 2 points, okay? writing all capital letters, it's a fact that A, it's slower. Okay, that's one of the reasons we have lowercase letters in English, by the way, so that we can write faster. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of make a note on this for everybody, and then I promise you that we'll answer all the questions. But I think this is important for all of you who are really adamant or excited about writing all uppercase. So especially in the listening where you have the audio coming. So keep in mind that writing all uppercase letters is A, slower, and B, higher error rate for spelling. Okay. Here's an interesting tip or a trick. Write the answers, and this is only for the paper-based, so I should say paper-based. Okay. This won't work in the computer-based exam. Okay. Write the letters in the question book all in lowercase, and then when you transfer, write them in uppercase. Okay, this will make you faster during the listening. Now, when you transfer, make sure that you are really paying extra attention to the spelling. Okay, everybody clear on that? Okay, is everybody clear? That's only for the paper-based exam. With the computer-based exam, you can write fast in uppercase because you can use the caps lock. Okay, so if you're going to write uppercase in the computer-based exam, use the caps lock, all right? Don't hold the shift button the whole time, but use the caps lock button to make it all uppercase. Everybody knows the caps lock button, right? It's a button that you can press to make all. Caps lock actually means capital letter lock, okay? So in the computer-based exam, use caps lock, which actually means lock letters to capitals. Okay, capitals is another way to say uppercase letters. Okay, everybody clear on that? Yeah? It's clear? Shuhal, you do get paper, but it's only for notes, okay? All right. So that's a little tip, and now we'll keep going, okay? All right, everyone. Fantastic. Here we go. So Walter Colchester. So again, Colchester. Okay, where does Walter live? What's his address? You only need a number there. Okay, thanks, Jasmine. That's nice of you. So where does he live? You just need the number, and please use the number. Don't use words for this. So you got to complete the application. 23, yeah, 23 Shaftesbury Lane, Plymouth. Don't write Plymouth because it's given here. If you write 23 Plymouth here, you'll get it wrong because they give Plymouth. In the IELTS, the rule is don't repeat answers or information that's given. Okay, so 23 Shaftesbury Lane, Plymouth. Okay, and what's Mr. Colchester's date of birth? Did anybody catch that? Lydia says 11th December 1979. Yeah, and Lydia, the easiest way to write that is 11 December 1979. You do not need commas. You do not need the full word. You can use the abbreviation, December. You can do all capitals, okay? You want to be fast here because the audio is going. So you don't want to miss answers. You don't want to get confused. So you want to be as quick as possible. You do not need the superscript, okay? So this is called a superscript when you put the TH up here. If you'd have it down here, that would be called a subscript. But up here, it's called a superscript. And you don't need the superscript in the IELTS. It's not needed. Just the number. Okay? All right. Cool. So moving on, the phone number. Now with phone numbers, national insurance numbers, be patient. They usually repeat these numbers a couple of times. Okay. Yeah, so Z was asking, is the audio going to be this fast? Yes, it is. Okay. Students, be very careful. Some of the materials that you find for IELTS listening online is not like the real test. The audio is slowed down and the people speak slower for practice, okay? The exams that you find on our websites and the exams that you'll find in the Cambridge past papers, they are the actual speed of the audio, and yes, they are absolutely this speed, okay? So they are absolutely this speed. Now, a lot of your answers are being blocked because chat doesn't like phone numbers being shared, but I'm unblocking them. So you'll see a few of them coming up if you check back on the chat. Now, I'm just unblocking your answers. Yeah, chat is very careful about privacy. So you'll see your answers come up now. And I see that a lot of you answered 01752667853. Yeah, that seems to be the right answer. So 01752 6678. And then 35 or 53. Let me just double check that. It's 35. Okay. So that's the correct answer. You don't have to worry about spaces. It can be just one long line of numbers. They do have to be correct. If you switch the 3 and the 5, you'll get it wrong. So be very careful. Students, if your 7s kind of look like 1s, if you write really quickly and your 7 kind of looks like a 1, just put a line through it so it's a clear 7. Okay. One of the common ways to write 7 is with a line through here, just to make sure that nobody confuses it with a 1. If you have a very clear 7 like this, it's okay. All right. But this line should be horizontal and this line should be 45 degrees. Okay. For a clear 7. If you want to be absolutely sure, you just put a little line through it. Okay. Should not look like a 1. If some of you didn't catch that number and you kind of do this to try to make it look like a 7 or a 1, they will mark that wrong if they can't tell, right? IELTS examiners will not try to guess if the student's writing is not clear. Okay, national insurance number, what was that? So, what was that? Cambridge books that you use for the audio, they're going to be the same speed as this one, as this audio, and those are past papers. So those are exams taken from the past, okay? All right, so here we go. Janelle says that this number should be WC. Listen for that W. Okay, it's a W if you're French. WC 2856 9833. Sammy Rocky agrees. And that is correct. I highly, highly recommend using capital letters for letters in a string of numbers. Okay, so use capitals for letters in a string of numbers. If you use lowercase, it looks a bit awkward. It looks clear like this. Okay. If you ever have the word O or 0, which probably won't happen in the IELTS, but 0 and O are differentiated by a line. So this equals 0, okay, and this is an O. So O, 0. Also, one way you might see it on computers is capital O's tend to be very round, as where zeros are a little bit more ovular. So that's the shape, the name of the shape, ovular. They're an oval, okay. All right, let's go to the next set here. So this man is registering to run for town councillor, Mr. Colchester. And the woman says there are 3 debates. You have to go to at least 2 of these. And then she gives information about the debates. And she says the second debate is happening on this date and at this time. And then the location is given. What's the date? What's the time of the debate? 28th of August, second debate. Yes, it is. And so all you need here is 28, Aug. Sorry. And try to be consistent. If you're using all capitals, then use all capitals. So 28, Aug. Hey, isn't that tomorrow? Yeah, it's tomorrow. Who's coming to the debate? No, I'm just kidding. That's just by chance. But tomorrow is the 28th of August. All right, so 28th of August, and it's at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is okay, but students, the best answer here is 6 p.m. Okay, because it's 6 o'clock in the evening. No more than 2 words. You can't do 6 o'clock evening because this is counted as 1, 2, 3, so you get it wrong. This is quite tricky. 6 p.m. would be counted as 1, 2, so this would be okay. The other way that you can do this is switch it up to a 24-hour clock, okay? Lydia, absolutely. You want to mention p.m. here because the IELTS questions and answers always need clarity. They always need absolute clarity. So the other way that you could do this is like this. Okay, that would also be correct. That would count as just one number. Is that clear? So be clever, be quick. Okay, you can absolutely use a 24-hour clock. In fact, when you hear the times like 4:30 in the morning or 10 p.m. in the evening, I would recommend just switching it to the 24-hour clock. Just remember that 10 p.m. in the evening would be 22, right? That's 10 p.m. because it's always 12 plus the number. So 12 plus 6 is 18, okay? So fastest way in my mind, clearest way is just to do that, 18, all right? Okay, so then the woman gives a little bit more instructions to Mr. Colchester. And she says that there's a campaign spending limit on advertisements and such. What is it? Hushboo says 2,000. Lydia says 2,000 pounds. Janiel says 2,000. Surya says 2,000 pounds. Shraddha says 2,000. Shraddha, Janiel, Preeti, and Khushbu are correct. You never repeat the given symbol, okay? So pounds is given, so only the number. Pay attention to given information. If you write pounds, you can actually get that wrong, okay? Because they give you pounds with the symbol sterling pounds given to you, okay? So British pounds. So don't repeat it. If you see the symbol, percents or pounds or dollars, you only need the number. Don't write the word. It's a waste of time and you'll get it wrong, okay? So just the number pounds. They're quite strict in the marking in this sense because they want you to really pay attention to detail, okay? So just 2,000. If you don't see pounds, you have to write pounds. If you don't see pounds, don't write the word, use the symbol. Okay, how much is the registration fee? 50. Now everybody's on board. Yeah, 50. And you see the pounds, so you only write 50. Okay. All right, cool. So 2,050. Now we have one more question remaining. This is question 10. It's one question. It's only question 10. You have to get all 3 of these correct to get this correct. So what are the 3 ways of paying the registration fee mentioned in the recording? Is it direct debit, check by post, credit in person, cash by post, credit over the phone, check over the phone? Okay. Kamal says ABC. Akbar says ABC. Evil Genius says it's CFE. Lydia says it's CAB. Well, you can send a check by post, so B is okay. You could definitely pay by credit card in person. Sure, why not? And I would say credit over the phone. So the correct answers are B, C, and E. Why do I know this? Well, here we go. Simple logic. Okay, this is where you want to remember your good friend logic. All right. Now, of course, provided that you're familiar a bit with this kind of payment system in many Western countries. She doesn't talk about direct debit, so there's no talk about that. You should never send money. Most of us learn this. You should never put money into an envelope and send it. So that's just silly. So that's logic. Okay. And check over the phone. I don't think that's possible. So again, logic. Okay. Now you can take some pictures of checks and do something, but I think that's still not really possible in this case. So not possible. You should never do that. They don't talk about it. These three are the right ones. Okay. Did everybody get that? So even if I didn't catch the audio and I'm really paying attention, now if I don't catch it right away, then in my review time or in the 10 minutes to transfer the answers, I can kind of think about that. Okay, so here's another really important tip, students. In your review time and in your time to transfer answers, logic can often help you figure out the correct answer. Everybody got that? Super logic, Sammy? Yeah? Logic is your friend. Remember that. Logic is your friend. You can get a lot of answers correctly even without the audio. Okay? No government office would ever ask you to put money into an envelope and send it to them. Okay? All right. So hell, if it's 4 a.m., you just write 4 a.m. or you just write 4 like that. That would be 4 a.m. Okay? Okay, cool. So let's do the next one, which is part 2. So we'll do part 2 together the same way. Now, remember, students, that there's quite a big jump between the difficulty or the level of English and questions between part 1 and part 2. So don't be surprised. It's a bit of a jump for sure. Okay, part 1 is clearly the easiest part in the listening. Part 2 gets much more difficult, and then part 3 and part 4 get more and more difficult as well. But definitely, I think the biggest jump is between part 1 and part 2. So let's go to part 2, and we'll do it the same. So once more, I'm using my headset microphone, which is it's good. It's a Samsung, and I'm using a Bose speaker, which is also good. It's real-time streaming, which is, of course, not perfect yet. Just write your answers into a separate document so that everybody can answer on their own, and then we'll share them after together. Here we go, everyone, from our website with listening part 2.
Now turn to section 2.
Here we go.
Take some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Listening section 2. You will hear a recording of 3 discussing strategy for an upcoming meeting with investors. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully to the interview and answer questions 11 to 16.
Thank you both for coming in for this preparatory meeting. As you know, we have an extremely important meeting with our investors next week. While I'm more than confident in the work we have done over the past year, we must be prepared to justify our progress to our investors. After all, they are the ones who pay our salaries. First, I want to review the positive outcomes we've achieved over the past year. This will make up the bulk of our presentation. Amy, would you like to give us a rundown on this front?
Sure. We've achieved many positive outcomes over the past year, and furthermore, we've achieved more in the past 4 months than in the previous 8 months. So we're certainly showing significant progress. First, and most important, sales of our app are up 50% from last year, totaling 586,000 units in the past 12 months, up from 390,000 units in the previous year. This is great progress. Second, we're achieving a higher purchase rate. While our sales are up 50%, the number of total downloads has remained relatively constant. This means our conversion rate has increased 50% as well. This clearly demonstrates that our efforts in this area have been fruitful. By targeting the conversion rate instead of the raw download rate, we have raised our standing and search result priority within the application stores. This will eventually lead to a higher download rate and even more sales. The upward trajectory here is very clear. We have also decreased the complaint rate from 2.5% to 1.5%. While our goal is to get this rate as close to zero as possible, this decrease represents a positive outcome and shows that our efforts to increase customer satisfaction have been successful.
Yes, but if I may interrupt, I actually have to disagree on one point. I don't believe it should be a goal to get the complaints rate down to zero. While we certainly don't want a high complaint rate, the resources spent on getting the complaint rate down are better spent on increasing downloads and increasing the conversion rate. I think this is an important point to be made to investors. While we certainly value the quality of our product, we are much more focused on the value of the investment. I think
You now have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 17 to 20.
That's a great point. We really want to emphasize that we're doing everything we can to optimize and maximize the money and resources we've been supplied with. Speaking of which, are we all agreed that we will be asking for 20% increase in operating budget?
Yes.
yes.
Good. And how are you going to justify such an increase?
Well, certainly by pointing to the statistical outcomes you previously referenced, but also by our need to expand. We need to increase our catalogue of apps, and to do this, we will need to hire at least 2 additional developers. In addition to this, I think we are now at the point in our business where hiring a market analyst would be justified. Such a person could be charged with finding niches to exploit within the market. Right now, our operations in this regard are rudimentary at best, and an expert in the field could help increase our sales volume significantly. Such an expert's salary might take up 5% of our operating budget, but could lead to a 10% increase in sales or more. The 5% difference would result in a net income increase of almost £100,000.
I agree. Hiring a market analyst is long overdue. One more justification for a budget increase is an across-the-board pay rise, if only at the rate of inflation. 2%, say. This would go a long way to increasing worker morale and output quality. In addition to this,
That is the end of section 2. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, everyone. So that was part 2. And again, you'll notice that it's quite a bit more challenging than part 1 because you're getting into real life situations. So in part 2, in the IELTS exam, you get into conversations, okay? And the conversations are between students, between colleagues, between team mates on sports team. And the reason why, of course, is because IELTS is testing how well you will be able to handle this situation in university or in your workplace in English. Okay, so you have to be able to listen to different kinds of English. So you'll notice here that we had 3 speakers. One of them was a New Zealander, and 2 of them were British. The women was British, and one of the men were British. Okay, so it's a conversation, and you had to pick out the information. So let's go through the answers, and then I'll chat about this a bit more as we go. So who pays the salaries of the workers in the recording? Gyung says investor. Gyung, almost. You still get that incorrect, unfortunately. It's investors, plural. Okay? Plural is very, very important. Okay, so it's investors with an S. All right? Make sure the spelling is correct. They say it a couple times. Okay, this table may be a bit challenging. You have to really pay attention to the heading. So the current year, these are numbers, and then the change from previous year. So the change from previous year for sales was up 50%. So in the current year, here you had to figure out the number of sales. And what was that number of sales? Sammy says 586,000. Yeah, 586,000. Okay. Fastest way to write 3 zeros or 1,000 is the letter K. So 586K, 586,000. Okay. That is okay. All right. That was the total number of sales. The downloads for this year is not given. Change, it's constant. Okay. The conversion or the purchase rate, so they're talking about an app here that their company works with. It's not given, and it was up by how much? Okay, Lydia says 15. Sammy says 50. Yeah, and 50%. Okay, so the conversion rate was up by 50%. And the way we know, Lydia, that it's 50 and not 15 is that the speaker actually says it's the same as our sales. So the change is the same as sales, it's 50%. All right? So they even give you a little bit extra help there with that. Okay, the complaint rate. The current year's complaint rate was 1.5%. So this was their actual complaint rate. And what was the change of the complaint rate from the previous year? Priya, it's not 2.5, but Nurlan has it, it's 1%, because it's the change. So sometimes IELTS will have these easy math questions to test your critical thinking, right? So last year it was 2.5%. This year it's 1.5%. So the change is 1%. Everybody clear on that now? So last year it was 2.5%. This year it's 1.5%. The difference is 1%. Simple math, but you have to subtract, Lydia. That's right. Okay? Those are called your inference type questions. And it's very likely that you will see one of those on the exam. Okay? So keep that in mind. So these were the correct answers. Okay? 586,000, 50%, 1%. Okay? Pay attention to the column headings. Change, not the number. This is the number. This is the change. Okay? All right. So then we had questions 15 and 16, which were multiple choice. Now, in these multiple choice questions, you see that the questions are long, the answers are long. So the only way to get these right is to listen for the answer. Okay? So listen for the answer. What point do the investors disagree on? You should have listened for the answer, which was to get the complaint rate as low as possible. Okay? So the correct answer was C. If you're just searching for the answer, it's going to be too slow. If you know the answer, you can find that even later on when the audio is finished. Okay. Number 16, what is of primary importance according to the employees? What was the answer to that? What is most important? Maximizing the investor's money, right? So basically, for those of you who are business students, ROI, return on investment, maximizing the investor's money. So maximizing the value of the investor's investment. A. Okay. Like most businesses, ROI. If you have good ROI, you're golden. If you have bad ROI, it will soon be the end of it all. Okay. Let's keep motoring along. So now we had to complete this summary. And again, students, definitely practice listening to multiple speakers in a conversation. Okay. All right. So here we go. The employees are requesting a 20% something in funding. They say this about 2-3 times. It's not operating budget, Sammy. It's just something more simple than that. Yeah, increase, Mohammed. Nurlan, that's right. So it's just an increase. Okay. This will allow the company to hire 2 additional what? What can they hire with this money from the increase in funding? Funding is operating budget, so that's why it's increased. 20% increase in funding. Watch the word form here, right? That will help you. Okay, so Nurlan and Lydia and Preeti and Priya all agree that this answer is developers. Now, it's not capital, it's just a small d. And obviously an S because it's 2, right? So obviously plural S. Okay. All right. Who will allow the company to broaden their catalog of apps. They would also like to hire a something. What would they like to hire? Or who would they like to hire? What kind of a position? This was a little bit more challenging, so it's definitely looking for those higher level people or students in the English. Okay, it's a market analyst. Yeah, market analyst, absolutely. So somebody who analyzes the market and says, hey, this is what we should do. It's a very popular position in companies these days. It's a market analyst. Okay, great. So now we have one more question left. Finally, the team wants a pay raise pegged to the rate of, pay very careful attention to this, to the rate of what? The rate of inflation. That's right, inflation. All right. Now, I saw a really cool question from Adele earlier on. Adele was asking, I heard from my teacher that I should never change my first answer if I'm doubting myself. Adele, that was a good question. Absolutely. You should never, ever change your initial answer, especially with multiple choice. Very often students change correct answers to incorrect answers, so do not change your answers, students. That was a good question, Adele. Okay. All right, well, how did everybody do? What did you get out of 20? So what was your score out of 20 for part 1 and part 2? How did you do? Sandeep, it was market analyst because that's what they said. They said we need to hire a market analyst. And they said a market analyst, even if it costs 5%, could help us make 10% more. Nuralan says 17 out of 20. Ashraf says 17 out of 20. Sammy, 17. Yeah, 17 is good. Okay, students, 17 is good. So you should be looking here for 16 or more. Okay, if you're looking for a band score 6.5 or more. Okay, how should I do that? Okay, So if you're one of those students who's looking for a band score 6.5 or higher, then in part 1 and part 2, you should be looking to get at least around 16 answers correct, because part 3 and part 4 will be more difficult. So if you lost 4 points in part 1 and part 2, there's a good chance you're going to lose at least another 6 or 7 in part 3 and part 4, and that will bring your score down to about band 7. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, 15, Lydia, is like borderline, so that's around your 6.5. Okay, you absolutely don't want less than that. Preeti, if you're looking for an 8.5, you should basically have 19 to 20 correct in part 1 and 2. So almost no mistakes in part 1 and 2, Preeti, if you want an 8.5. Okay, 8.5 is very high. You can only lose, I think, 4 marks in the entire 4 sections. Okay, cool. Students, so that audio, again, was taken from our websites. We have 6 original exams on our website, along with many, many hours of video lessons and a fully interactive course. You can check your score on our websites as well. There's a score calculator for the IELTS on our websites at the very bottom. So make sure to check us out at ahelp.com, glshelp.com. Tomorrow, I will be back at the same time with this listening exam for parts 3 and parts 4. Okay? So you're very welcome, Eugen. I'm happy to have you on board. I always love those emojis. They just kind of spice up the whole chat there. So come back tomorrow for part 3, part 4. Let's do it together. Let's finish. We will do some more strategy as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay productive. Much love to all of you. I'm Adrian, signing out from Budapest. Bye for now.